Hey everybody, Ben here from the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to Star Player Spotlight. We look at every star player available in Blood Bowl 2020, whether it's from the rulebook, the Spike magazine, or, like Puggy Baconbreath here, a returning star from the Almanac. So the Blood Bowl 2022 Almanac has released this week, and inside it are a bunch of new returning stars from the last edition of Blood Bowl, and we have been waiting for some of these guys to come back for Blood Bowl because, like our buddy Puggy Baconbreath here, they've been in the game since legitimately before a lot of us were born, which is remarkable. Anyway, let's have a look at Puggy Baconbreath. Okay, so Puggy is and was a ubiquitous element of Halfling Blood Bowl. He was the superstar. He was the ultimate underdog of star players. He was great fun, and then he was gone. But now he has returned. Okay, so Puggy Baconbreath is a Halfling star player. He can play for the Halfling Thimble Cup and the Old World Classic team. So we'll look at those teams in a minute. We'll go through his rules. Then we'll talk through the teams and what teams might want to take him and why. So Puggy Baconbreath comes in at 120k, which is on the cheaper end of star players. You kind of got your super cheap star players at 50k. You've got your utility star players around about 100 to 140k. That's normally where chainsaws and things like that sit. And then you've got your bigger star players after that. Puggy sits on the cheaper end of star playerdom. Movement 5, strength 3, agility 3+, passing 4+, and armor 7+. We've got a halfling that is strength boosted and armor boosted. Passing, I think, is still the same. So he is a strong halfling with tougher armor, as befitting this awesome model back from the beginning days of Blood Bowl, where everything was in black and white. Block, dodge, loner 3+, nerves of steel, right stuff, and stunty. So he is a strength 3, movement 5, armor 7+, blodger with edge 3+. I don't know. It's a hard one to describe. Carla, if you've played against Carla Von Kill, she kind of does it all, but to a level where you're like, man, she is a problem, as opposed to Griff, where Griff is just broken. And that's the difference, I think, between Edge 2+ Blodger and Edge 3+ Blodger. This guy is an Edge 3+ Blodger who is only Strength 3 and only Movement 5, but he's only 120k. So it's a really interesting star player, where Puggy, now we'll talk about his special power in a second, he's just there to be a really great halfling. Now, he's got that stunty dodge. So he is 3+ into any cage, basically, unless you've got Croxagores and things. And he's going to rock up in there at strength 3, which is most of the time going to be a 1-die block, and he's already got block. So you're looking at that and you're like, he's a strength 3 blodger, that's fine. He's a stunty with +1 strength and block. If you've played halflings, if you've played goblins, you know how great it is to sneak into a cage on a cheeky 3+ with a reroll and take that 2-die up pow. This guy's going to do it with 1 dice, and he's got block, so he is consistent even though he's a star player. Now, he is a star player and he's got loner 3+, so if you really need to reroll something, you can take that 3+ chance, or you can rely on his halfling luck. So once per game, Puggy Baconbreath can basically just re-roll a dice that he has rolled, whether it's part of a dice pool, whether it's a agility test, that kind of stuff. Can't re-roll armor and things, basically the same rules as before. He just gets a re-roll. It's basically auto pro. So there's 2 things that he becomes amazingly good at. One is sneaking into a cage and just decking somebody. You have to support the cage, you have to set up a good opportunity, but he's going to have that auto reroll so that once per game, if you really need him to do something, he's going to sneak into that cage, and if he skulls out, because that's the only way that can go wrong, he's got that automatic once per game reroll where he can just reroll that dice, and he's good to go. Alright, there's a 1 in 36 chance it's going to burn you, but more than likely you're going to be able to use that sneaky Puggy blitz to just push him to the other side of the line and him to base contact with, I don't know, depends what team you're playing, maybe a tree man, maybe Griff. There's a ton of cool stuff that you can do with that. The second here, he's got nerves of steel, which means if you need him to be a ball carrier, you can just hand off the ball, and again he's got that auto reroll once per game with nerves of steel, so he's going to be 3+ catching the ball. But ultimately, Puggy is there to be a better than average throw teammate guy. Nerves of Steel means he's going to be able to receive the ball. He's got movement 5, he's got strength 3, he's got armor 7. So when it gets on the other side, he's going to be able to block all right. He's going to be able to resist the damage from the ground if he fails his landing. But again, he's got that integral reroll, so he's going to land on a 3+, maybe a 4+, but he's going to have that integral reroll. Now, he is most likely just going to be a really useful nuisance that's going to flit around at strength 3. He's a movement busted great human blitzer that you can throw around, and he's got stunty. It's a weird one. There is something endearing about this player. If you've ever played a stunty game, if you've ever played a team with stunties, you want them to succeed. This is basically who you want your halflings to become. Because when they play for your team and they've got this skill set and are only 120k, they're a bit of a bargain. Let's have a look at which teams can actually take him. Okay, so it's Old World Classic and Halfling Thimble Cup. So Halfling teams are the only ones in the Halfling Thimble Cup for now. I foresee in the long distance a Tree Man team or something also landing in there. Now we've got Old World Classic teams. Now these teams are going to be able to take this guy for 120k. So we're going to talk about League, we're going to talk about tournaments, because there's going to be a lot of times where he might be useful for you. Dwarf, Halfling, Human, Imperial Nobility, Ogre, Old World Alliance, and Norse. Human, Nobility, Alliance, Ogre, you get him there as an additional opportunity to throw teammate if you don't have a halfling on your roster for the human or OWA teams. He's just better. Imperial Nobility, if you've got the Ogre, 120k gives you that opportunity to have a cheeky throw teammate route. And also that stunty 3+ is really good. He's got blodge, so most of the time you're going to be 1 or 2 die blocks against him, and blodge is going to keep him on his feet. It's almost a shame he doesn't have sidestep, because then he would be ultimately aggravating. Ogre team is going to be an interesting one, and I think this is where he falls into that category of a bit of a utility player. You're going to end up in situations where, specifically for League, you end up with 130k. Okay, you can't take the star player you want to, you can't fit Griffin, you don't have the 200+ to take Carla or Zug. So you're kind of like, well, what can I do? I can take a wizard, I can take a chainsaw, and that's where Puggy is going to come into his own a little bit, because you're going to be able to pick up a multifaceted player. And that's the really interesting thing here. He's not an amazing blitzer. He's not an amazing throw teammate guy. He's still edge 3+. But he's a really useful reserve jack of all trades. You're going to be able to take that 3+ stunty block, that 3+ stunty blitz into a cage with him. You're going to have that extra throw teammate with him where you need to hand off the ball. He's got nerves of steel. So even if he's in a bunch of tackle zones, it doesn't matter. Then he can just dash off into the distance. He's just really good. The difficulty is that from all of these teams, they now have access to Cindy Pie Whistle. Now, Puggy is great fun, but he's not 50k and he's not a bombardier. So he's going to be up against Cindy in most situations, unless your league bans bombardiers or Cindy or something like that. Now, what you do get from him is a halfling for the entire game. He's armor 7, which is better than an average halfling, and he's strength 3, which is again better than an average halfling, and he's got blodge, so he's going to be reasonably resilient. But he's not going to blow stuff up twice per turn, and he is 120k, so at twice the price. He's a bit of a role player, and there will be a ton of you that brew up tournament rosters with him because he's only 120k. You've got that little bit of like, oh, he's my 12th man, he's got blodge, I've got an extra skill, it's basically an extra double skill on one of my halflings, I've got a throw teammate option, he's going to be my star kind of subpar blitzer. He is a lot heavier, I think, in charm than he is in OP angle. He will be really useful every single turn of the game, and his price point at 120 is a bargain, and it's going to be reflected. You can buy Cindy Pie Whistle for 50k. She's going to be on for a drive, she's going to blow herself up probably, or she's going to get sent off, and that's it for the game. Or you take Puggy at 120k, and every single turn you always have an option. It's not going to be the best option, it's not going to be a 2+2 die block, it's going to be a 3+1 die block. But it is always going to give you that option, and that's what he's going to provide for your team. Now, there's no star player model from Forge World for this guy just yet, and I couldn't see one on Grebo Games' website, and Punga's Halfling team didn't have a Puggy, obviously because he wasn't included in the rules, therefore he wasn't kind of standing out. Now, you can convert your own Puggy. He's got a very cool style of oversized pauldrons and a helmet, so a Halfling hefty model with some spikes and some Chaos shoulder pads or something like that is going to make an awesome Puggy model. But there are a few Halfling star player models kicking out there, and all you got to do is just Google Halfling star player model, and you're going to see some cool stuff. And one of the ones that I really like is actually the Willy Miniatures guy, because he's got those oversized pauldrons, he's got his helmet, he's got his spike, and he's just got that Halfling charm. Now, I know that now he's out, there's going to be a ton of places that come out with a Puggy model. Grebo will hit one up, Punga might hit one up at some point, Brutefun, knowing him, as soon as he gets to Halflings, you'll have a brilliant Puggy model. But Willy Miniatures one here is my favourite one. There's a good one from Iron Golems as well. It's a difficult one. Puggy is both unique and really easy to acquire, because he can just be any cool Halfling model that you've got can be your Puggy. He doesn't need to be specifically bigger than a Halfling. If he has a bit more armor, it makes a bit more sense and he looks a bit cooler, but quite frankly, it doesn't matter. He's a Halfling and he's great. Okay, so that is Puggy Baconbreath. We will see him every now and again. I do not think he is going to be the quintessential Halfling star. I think the Halfling teams are going to include him when they can't afford Carla, and I think that's kind of where he's going to sit. A lot of the Halfling teams where they sit so low on team value, they'll take a great star player, maybe they'll take 2 good star players, but what you're going to start seeing now is a slightly different build. So a Halfling team with 400k couldn't afford Carla and Griff. They might take Carla and Rumbelow instead, but now you can take Griff and Puggy, which gives you those extra options. Unless they're taking Cindy Pie Whistle, which is in fact meta warping. So I don't think Puggy is going to be out there as regularly as we might have seen him because of the Bombardier being a bit of a no-brainer. But 120k is going to give you options every single turn instead of just for one drive. And at 120k, you're going to be able to afford Puggy and the Bombardier on your roster for 170. So for less than the price of Carla, you can take 2 very entertaining star players. So Puggy is back, and I think you're going to see him. I just don't think you're going to see him as often as you used to. Anyway, let me know what you think of Puggy, how he's back in Blood Bowl, and we'll be back again soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy blocking. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to support the channel even further, please like and subscribe. It really does help us out. Or come join us on YouTube Members or in Patreon, where you can get exclusive access to some content, some loot, early access to basically everything we do, as well as regular competitions. Or you can pick up some Bonehead Podcast loot either on our website at boneheadpodcast.com. We've got the Dungeon Bowl things, we've got tokens and stuff like that, or on our Spreadshirt site as well. Everything you do just helps us make more content and hopefully do it of better quality. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Happy blocking.